Alright, so what we're going to go through right now is we're going to show how you can go through and troubleshoot and find some of the problem areas in your model and actually get them cleaned up through some modeling techniques in Rhino. Because essentially in Revit is not designed for taking for 3D printing objects, and so what we're going to do is we're going to take the stuff that didn't come out of Revit properly and actually plug that in. So this is sort of a sequel to one of the tutorials that I previously did, bringing Revit into Rhino. And so we're going to go through that. So I'm assuming that you've gone through, you've brought your model in, and you've turned off all the extra layers here. I'm just leaving the walls off so I can show that. I actually turned off the glazing as well because I was looking at what scale the printers we have are capable of doing. Really having the windows in here doesn't really make that much of a difference. It's not going to help us all that much. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to turn that off again so we can see what we're doing. Oh, actually, I need that because I think one of my, so some of the problem areas. So the first thing we're going to do is, whenever you guys are doing this, Revit exports things called block instances. You're probably familiar with them if you do anything in AutoCAD. But if we select all the block instances through the command line, you see that we get a bunch of these geometries. So these things are not really in the model space other than just sort of being visually represented. So what we want to do once we select these is we want to explode them, and that will convert them into actual geometries that we can work with. So now these instances become objects, and the reason why we do that is when we run our analysis to select our open poly surfaces, it actually includes those in the analysis. And so if I were to do that analysis, so before I explode those out, I only get these things and I don't see the holes in the curtain wall that I ended up discovering down the road if you watch the previous tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and just select those block instances again and then explode those out. Alright, and now I'm going to select open poly surfaces. And now I'm going to move these a set distance that I'm going to have to remember later, just so I can, as I clean things up, I can move them back onto the model. So I'm going to move 100. So how far is that now? Well, let's go 1,000. Nice clean number. And in the meantime, I'm going to select this stuff and just lock this. The stuff that's good, I don't want to mess with, so I can only get to these guys. Okay, and so from there, what I can do is I can select these, and what I want to do is if I use the analysis tools, I'm going to click and hold and then tear this off. This guy show edges, we can toggle that on, and when you guys turn it on, it's going to first pop up and it's going to show all the edges. We want to set it to just show the naked edges in these guys. And so that's going to give us, if we zoom in here, all these guys. So even though these things are assembled here, we're going to discover pretty quickly that it's not all that great. So I'm going to just go ahead and explode this, and now you can see it's also updated that. But then I can select these things and rejoin parts of it. And then if I use some of the cap tools that I went over before, some of my other stuff, so we'll join this and then cap it. You see we have some surfaces here. We can delete those out. And now if we select this over here in the type object type parameters here, we see that these are closed poly surfaces. So these are now good to go, and we can move them back onto our model. Okay, and so as you guys go through this, we can come in through here. And so for the curtain wall systems in particular, it doesn't, for whatever reason, cap the mullions in some directions. So if I just select those guys and type cap, and then if I select closed poly surfaces, I also got this guy. I'm going to move that. If I right click, I can repeat that distance. So I can move that back into place as well. So now what we can do is, if we just go in through here, we can essentially set ourselves up to, I'm just going to do this in plan quickly. Alright, so we'll just take this and explode all of these. I think I might have missed that guy. Looks like we might have a detailing problem there in our Revit file, but I'm not going to worry about that. Alright, so then we just type join to get those edges, and then we can cap those edges. Alright, so now if you look up in that command line, we now have 19 closed poly surfaces. So we can now move those out. Again, right click. Save CAD conventions in Rhino as there are in AutoCAD. You can see where we have leftover stuff that we don't need to, we'll be able to delete out here. So we're just doing a little bit of cleanup. I'm intentionally avoiding these angled edges because that's where these extra surfaces are landing. So. Alright, so let's join those up and then cap those. Move those down. And you can see here you have all this extra stuff that's just sort of floating around. Again, I'm avoiding things that I can see where there's extra geometry. Okay. Join, cap. That is the one thing, the really nice thing about Revit is it tends to generate very planar geometry. So we'll use the move tool. Move that back into place. Just do a quick visual check here and make sure I got everything. Alright. So we'll just highlight this and delete this stuff out. We can turn off our analysis now. And let's do select open polysurface. No objects were selected by that action, so that means everything in here is either closed to polysurface or closed something else. So then let's, or some other type of geometry, sorry. So let's, first we're going to unlock all of that stuff, and I'm going to turn off my walls, and I'll just go through the preparation for setting up this as a 3D printable guy. I patched that hole just like in the previous demo already, so I'm not going to do that. Go through that again. I'll just tear this off, close that. You guys can use the command line if you're comfortable with it. And again, you can have as many overlapping geometries as you want. The printer will be just fine with that. So go like that. And I'm actually just gonna make that, oh, snap into the wrong thing here. Alright, now we have, make sure we have a lot of good overlap between all of our geometries here. Alright, so then we turn our walls back on. And so everything's unlocked. Let's just do another quick check. Select closed, or select open, polysurface, none selected. Select closed polysurface. And we want to use this action in case there's any curves floating around in there. But it looks like we're all good. Only 230 polysurfaces. And so I'm going to go ahead and mesh that geometry. Alright, and I'll just move this away. So let's do a select open mesh as our check. No objects, no opened mesh geometry selected, so we are good to go. So let's select closed mesh. Alright, and so now assuming that you have scaled this to the appropriate scale and that you know like little details like this are within the tolerance of the machine that you're printing on, you should be all set and good to go and just need to export this as an STL file. So just do a little export. 3D print me. Alright, and then we want to export this as a stereolithography file. Again, alright, and so that should be everything you guys need to know about how to print stuff out of, or basically we're doing a little bit of modification and repairs of Revit models in Rhino.